Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Xpath Nexus LinkedIn Live event. I'm your host, Madalina Andrei, former global mobility professional and currently partnership manager with Xpath.global. For those of you not yet familiar with Xpath.global, we are the first SaaS-enabled marketplace digital ecosystem in the global mobility sector. To put it simply, the first ecosystem that enables the direct relationship between local and regional experts offering specialized services like immigration, visa, social security, destination services, and corporate clients all around the world in need of such services. This is our 19th live event from the Xpath Nexus series, a series which has its main goal to become the place where we can share best practices in our industry, learn from each other, and most importantly, grow together. This episode focuses on digital nomad visas, struggles, and success stories. And we have here guests coming from 4 different countries. We have Croatia and Brazil, 2 countries that made serious and visible progress in implementing such visas, and we're going to listen to their amazing success stories. Spain, which has made some important advancements in this regard, but there is still some work left to be done. And South Africa, where we will discuss the main challenges and barriers faced in implementing such legislation. We have some great questions and answers in this session, thanks to the valuable insights from our fantastic expert panel here. Before giving the floor to my guests, I would like to thank all the attendees for joining us, for watching us. Please feel free to drop by, say hello, or leave your comments and questions live. I will do my best to incorporate everything during the session. A very big thank you to all the panelists here with me today for taking the time to join us. I know at least one of the panelists is on holiday as we speak. I would kindly ask you now to introduce yourself and your companies briefly. I think we can start alphabetically with Ian.
With me, with Jan?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, perfect. Madalina, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Really want to thank you for the opportunity to address everybody that is watching this here today. So my name is Jan de Jong. I'm born and raised in the Netherlands, and 15 years ago I moved to Croatia. I've been an entrepreneur ever since. I've started several businesses here. The first business that I started in Croatia today is one of the largest employers in the country, or actually in the whole region, employing more than 10,000 people, and is also listed on the Zagreb Stock Exchange. I made my exit from that business in 2016. After that, I started several other ventures, mostly connected to marketing. My latest venture last year is also connected to agriculture, where I plan to bring the Dutch greenhouse technology from the Netherlands to Croatia. And actually something that I was quite known for in the year 2020 is the fact that I was the initiator of introducing a digital nomad visa in Croatia. And that actually all started with me writing an open letter on LinkedIn to our Prime Minister. 44 days after that open letter, I had an opportunity to meet with him where he gave me the full support for introducing such a visa. And after that, I started working intensely with several ministries in Croatia. And in a matter of 6 months, we have been able to actually change 2 laws and 2 regulations, making Croatia the 2nd country in Europe and the 7th country in the world to welcome remote workers by granting them staying rights. I'm married, father of 4 children, and I always say that I enjoy living the Croatian dream.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks a lot. Andreas?
Hi, everybody. My name is Andreas Krensel. I am in beautiful Cape Town right now, and that's also where my company, IBN Immigration, is based. We are an African immigration provider. We have offices in Kenya, Mozambique, Namibia, and in Johannesburg and Cape Town. We purely do immigration. And I was born and raised in Europe, in Germany to be precise, and came to South Africa over 20 years ago. So a little bit later or earlier than Jan. I did suggest a digital nomad visa to our minister, but unfortunately our government seems to be less responsive than the Croatian one. So I have not heard back. And obviously the president now recently announced that South Africa is seriously looking into this. So I look forward to the seminar, and yeah, let's see what the other countries have to report.
Thanks a lot, Andreas. Thank you very much. Jordi?
Thank you, Madalina, for having us here. It's always a pleasure to collaborate with you. My name is Jordi Roca. I'm Director of GD.global Mobility. For 15 years, we've been advising corporate immigration in the areas of taxation, social security, labor of immigration. And we have offices in the main cities of Spain and more than 250 employees. And we have had the chance to participate with the Spanish government, who is always very open to hear the opinion of professionals in the development of this project law for digital nomads. Spain considers themselves as a natural destination for digital nomads for a number of reasons, and we'll be very pleased to clarify and to participate in this discussion.
Super. Thank you very much. Juliana?
Thank you, Madalina, for having me here today. I am Juliana Ruiz, and I am based in São Paulo, in Brazil. I've been working in the industry for over 12 years now. I started advising clients with taxation matters, and then I switched to the immigration side. And most recently, I decided to launch my own project, Cargo Immigration Services. So we are a boutique firm, and we advise with taxation and immigration in Brazil. And I'm happy to be here today because we have only 3 weeks of approval of this visa. And it's something new, so it's kind of, we will discover, you know, things in practice yet, but it will be good to hear the others and to understand a little more and share.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks again for joining us. We have several partners already joining us from various parts of the world. Thank you guys for watching us. Hello to everybody, and I hope you'll be enjoying the sessions. I think we can start with the home of tapas and sangria that has quickly become one of the most popular destinations for digital nomads in Europe for several years now, right, Jordi? Jordi, what were the main reasons that made the officials initially decide to work on implementing a digital nomad visa in Spain, and what is the impact they would expect once the process is finalized, of course?
Yeah, over the past years, the successive governments that we have had in Spain have been trying to implement legal measures to facilitate the attraction of knowledge and the attraction of talent to the country, also the attraction of investment. And this is just one more step. Obviously, this is triggered by the events of 2020 on a worldwide basis. As I said 5 minutes ago, Spain considers or regards themselves as a natural destination country for nomads visa because of the quality of life, because of the cost of living in comparison with other countries in the European Union or North America, because of the geographical position. When we start working in the morning, we match with timetables in Asia, and in the afternoon we can work or we match the working hours in the Americas. Spain is a tourism world leader, and so the connectivity of the country has very little countries you can compare with. And basically, the position of the government and the position of the ministry is that we need to continue attracting foreign knowledge, foreign investment, as a way to increase our competitivity, the competitivity of our economy, and also to revert the depopulation tendency that we have observed in the rural areas of the country. This offers us a possibility, an opportunity as a country, and that's one of the reasons that the Spanish government is mentioning.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Jordi. I think it's named Startup Law, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Correct. The digital nomad visa program is part of a broader law called Startups, and it's looking again to attract talent, to attract investment, to facilitate the starting of new projects in the fields of innovation and technologies, with measures in immigration, but also in taxation, in financing, in regulations. Again, trying to ease that initial process.
Yeah, yeah. What was the main client profile, let's say, of a digital nomad visa holder that the government had in mind? Who would be the main beneficiaries of such a visa?
Well, that's the thing. As I said, the Spanish government is targeting knowledge, targeting investment. But when you look at the requirements determined by the law, the requirements are very, very small. So basically, anyone who's holding a university degree or is being professionally active for 3 years can benefit from this type of visa. The other requirements is that if you're an employee, your employer cannot be based in Spain, because that way you will have to process through a different type of work permit. If you're going to be a freelance, an entrepreneur, then the main requirement is that only 20% at the most of your activity or clients are in Spain. So basically, anyone who is working remotely can benefit. I would say everyone can benefit from the digital nomad visa in Spain.
Super. Thank you, Jordi. We have a question from the audience for you. And the question would be for Alexander. Hello, Alexander, and thank you very much for your question here. So the question is regarding the Spanish bill expected to be passed. Maybe a general question related to countries that already have such bills. Do you expect workers from within the EU to use the digital normal tax advantages, even though work permit is not? I'm not sure what is the
absolutely
comment, but yeah. I hope you understood.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the tax benefits, as I said, the digital nomad visa is just an immigration program within a broader law. And this broader law is aiming to attract entrepreneurs and to attract highly qualified employees, to attract innovation, and anyone can benefit. Those who are coming from the rest of the countries of the European Union will still be benefited from not just the taxation, which is a very relevant part because it's a special tax regime that in the end treats legal tax residents as non-tax residents, with all the implications that it has. And all is a reduction on the corporate taxes of the companies, but also from many other benefits that this law is addressing. And I'm sorry, the other question, the other question is when it is expected. The expectations are around summer, perhaps just after summer in September.
What was the impact? What is the impact expected once this is finalized? Yeah.
Well, we already have thousands of international teleworkers in Spain. Many of them from the European Union, because there is not this immigration component that might make it more difficult for others. The idea is still growing the numbers of digital nomads in the country.
Yeah, super, Jordi. Thank you very much. I'm going across the pond right now to Juliana, and I would ask her if Brazil had the same reasons behind their decision to implement such a visa. Jordi mentioned a bit earlier talent attraction and the depopulation of rural areas. What was the Brazilian government had in mind when they decided to implement such a visa?
Yes, certainly in Brazil, we have the similar reasons to attract talents from all countries in general. But on the other hand, I think it's a way of economic recovery, because the digital nomad visa is a person who is going to live in Brazil and to consume all kinds of goods in Brazil. They will rent an apartment, they will go for tourism and etc. So it's a way of creating incentive for people to come to Brazil and to spend some time here. Also, they can benefit because they are not going to be fiscal resident for 183 days. So this is another advantage until now, because we only have 3 weeks of approval, as I mentioned to you. But this is regarding the immigration authorities. We still don't have a normative resolution or a law from the fiscal side. And so for now, they are not going to be considered as fiscal residents. So, but I think this is a way to create incentives to people to come to Brazil. And we see a lot of demand of entrepreneurs, self-employed people, and people that just want to, have a good time here and spend time at the beach.
Do you have
For
a
an
client
example,
profile,
working.
Juliana?
Yes, usually this is the people that are looking for our support. Entrepreneurs, we see a lot of people that want to invest in Brazil, and at a first step, they want to come and to spend some time, to understand the dynamic of the country and how the things are here in reality. And self-employers also, we see a lot of, this young generation, TikTokers, Instagrammers. We see a lot of them that just want to have a good time here and to know the beaches and the places, the things that we have to offer. And this is the main population that have been looking for our support. But on the other hand, we see a lot of movement of the companies, because not all the companies are now able to provide the for the employees to work remotely, but they are also trying to understand if, for an example, a person who works for a company on the same economic group abroad, they can come to Brazil and spend some time here, considering the scenario that they are not going to work for this Brazilian company, they can do that or not, because we see a lot of demand in this way. So we usually, generally, are that people.
I see. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Juliana. We have a lot of comments here coming from all over the world, as I said. We have Funke. Thank you, Funke, for your question. I think Funke's question is directed to Jordi. If we have a link to apply for the visa, could you please share? I'm currently working remotely and would love to explore other cultures. Or if it's not necessarily directed to Jordi, it might be directed to Juliana. Hello, Lina. Thank you very much for watching us. And we have another question coming from Kaushik. Is this type of visa only to attract new investments and freelancers? As mentioned by Jordi, this may not be applicable for employees who want to work from such locations where their employer have an office.
Let me clarify that, Madalina. Perhaps I explained myself incorrectly. The digital nomad visa as a type of work permit is addressed for people who work for employers who are not in the country, which are not in the country.
Obviously.
But for those who are going to be...
Hopefully we all understand that.
Yeah, but there is a Spanish telework law. So any employee can telework from Spain if the company is in Spain. And so in the case of those who want to telework and who reach an agreement with a company, because at the end of the day, this is a matter of getting to reaching an agreement with a company, that's a perfectly possible possibility in Spain. That's actually very common.
Thank you, Jordi. And another question from Natalie Marshall. Juliana, that would be for you. What would be the requirement for Brazil? I would kindly ask you not to answer this right now, because we developed the discussion a bit later on. And Natalie, you'll get your answer in a few minutes. If we can move now to Cape Town, that was voted among the best cities for working remotely in 2021. Andreas, we know South Africa is still yet to implement such a visa. We'll discuss about it in more detail later on. Would you say there is an interest from remote working, foreign workers, gig workers, freelancers, digital nomads, let's call them whatever, to choose South Africa as their destination country? And I'm rephrasing this question. If South Africa had such a visa, would it be a success?
Yeah, I think it would be a a huge success, to be honest. So the interest is overwhelming. I mean, I think it's quite evident. Firstly, we're in the southern hemisphere, so a lot of Europeans can escape their winters, all right? So that's number one. The living costs are low, and the standard of living is extremely high, at least if you have enough income. And then obviously we're in the same time zone like Spain, so the advantages Jordi was already mentioning with Asia and the east coast of America and South America is applicable to South Africa, and that's why we also have so many call centers here in Cape Town. And then I think Cape Town is probably the leading city in Africa, at least when it comes to startup environment and digitalization, competing maybe with Lagos and Nairobi. But there's a sincere cluster and quite a lot of knowledge and universities here. So obviously the freelancers I think are important to mention as well. You know, it's people who would work for companies overseas. But yes, the interest is there. We're getting daily inquiries. When are we starting with that? Wow. And I think it's really important that South Africa moves ahead because obviously lots of other very attractive countries having this visa. And I think if South Africa...
On the same time zone.
Yeah, I think in the same time zone, exactly. Maybe not in the southern hemisphere, but I mean, for instance, Mauritius. I mean, Mauritius started roughly a year ago with their premium visa, right? Which is pretty much a digital nomad visa, if you want to call it that way. And Mauritius is a nice place to go as well. So I think South Africa should kick into gear and really get this going. And it's fairly simple to implement, but I mean, one of your, I think, later questions. So I don't want to jump in.
Yeah. Have you thought about the client profile, Andreas? Is it similar to what we heard in Spain and Brazil?
Yeah, I think there's not young entrepreneurs, young workers who have the flexibility. I think even young families with children. I think some of the COVID policies in some European countries have led to some frustration. So we have a lot of clients here who say, well, I want to put my children for half a year into a school and actually let them visit a school. So that also speaks for it. But I think that it's quite broad. I don't think there's a typical type of people coming, but the spin-offs are super important. And I think it's really important that countries understand that, because in my 20 years of experience, there's either you land in Cape Town or Johannesburg and you hate it because it's not for everybody, or you fall in love with the country. And as a matter of fact, most people actually fall in love with the country and the beauty of the people and the energy and all that. And then they come 3 or 4 times and then they say, well, I want to invest here. What can I do, right? So this visa just, and Jordi obviously said that already, it just is another step to attract potential investor for later on. And I think it's really, really important to understand that they don't take jobs away and they don't, influence the local job market. As a matter of fact, they're actually going to do completely the opposite. That's why so many countries are implementing it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andreas. It's time for us now to go to the second country in the world that implemented this visa, Croatia, and Ian. Ian, you have a truly, truly remarkable story here. Sometimes it seems to me, I told you before, that it's taken from a science book, from a science fiction book, about an utopian land somewhere. So you're a Dutch entrepreneur. So you're a foreigner settled in Croatia, and you were the one basically setting things in motion by addressing an open letter, and not anywhere but on LinkedIn. And not to anybody, but to the Prime Minister directly. And if I'm not mistaken, it took only 45 days, right, for the government to announce that they would push for digital nomad visa introduction. Now, no matter how often I repeat this phrase in my mind, I still can't believe it, right? I have a series of questions now which are interrelated. The first one, why did you get involved? Right? What was behind your decision of getting involved in this project, and what do you expect out of it? Yeah.
So, I mean, just for example, like Andreas fell in love with South Africa. I had my reasons to fall in love with Croatia, and my wife is Croatian. My children, I have 4 children. They're obviously half Croatian, half Dutch. But we do plan our future in this country. And if I look at this country, I see on one hand a lot of challenges, and at the same time I see a lot of opportunities. And, you know, I guess that we as a Mediterranean country, just like Spain, for instance, we are dealing with very similar challenges. We're dealing with, first of all, we as economies, we are very much depending on tourism. Croatia depends for about 20% of its GDP on tourism, which in my opinion is way too much. You know, we are too dependent on tourism. Then, of course, when we were all entering into this global pandemic and we all had to be in lockdown, the Croatian economy was severely damaged because people could not come to Croatia. And at that very moment, I was actually asked to participate in a virtual panel on the subject of tourism. And I was going to get the question, what we can do to turn this country, so Croatia, into a year-round destination. And just prior to that question, I was reading up on some articles written by Total Croatia News reporter Paul Bradbury. And my eyes fell on the words digital nomad tourism. And to me, it all just made so much sense that, you know, now that we all are forced to work fully remote, if you have to anyway work remotely, then why would you not want to work from Croatia? Especially if you can do that on a German, Swiss, American salary or whatever. If you can take that job with you to Croatia, then why not to work from there? And we are dealing with a severe brain drain in this country. So a lot of young and talented people are leaving this country. And I thought by myself, if we are able to welcome those remote workers, remote work professionals, then we can actually reverse the brain drain, and we can, for a change, we can actually bring young and smart and talented people to Croatia. And, you know, for me, it all just made so much sense. I started promoting this initially on my LinkedIn profile. I got a lot of support from the people that were following me on LinkedIn. And after getting more and more support, that's when I wrote the open letter to the Prime Minister. Of course, the media started picking up on that. And a couple of, I would say maybe 2 weeks after my open letter, I received a phone call from the police, Ministry of Interior. So that's the police.
Sorry, media meaning TV stations, papers.
Mostly the newspapers,
right?
newspapers and web portals. They started writing about it. Of course, they reached out to me. They wanted to have interviews with me, so I gave my statements and all that. They made beautiful articles about it. And I think that, you know, at that very moment, it was just the perfect message at the perfect moment. So we were all severely hurt because of not being able to serve tourists in Croatia, because our country was in lockdown. Everybody was working remotely. Then you have, all of a sudden, you have this Dutch guy that is promoting Croatia in a way that he shares so much love and passion about this country, and comes up with a possible solution how we can actually turn this country into a year-round destination for remote workers. And then with enough, let's say, positive pressure from the media, the government picked up on it, and I received this phone call from the Ministry of Interior. That's when I went over to have that meeting, and they told me during that meeting that they believed that they could actually do this, and rather fast, because they were just about to make changes to the Alien Act, to the Foreigners Act. And they thought that this was a perfect moment to tag along with additional legislation to allow those remote workers to come to Croatia for up till 1 year. Very soon after that, I also met with the Prime Minister. So that was 44 days after my open letter. And he at that moment gave full support to this initiative. He shared it on his Twitter. Again, you know, all the media picked up on that. And with the media buzz that we had at that moment behind it, we started. So
media mattered a lot, right? In the whole,
absolutely.
That was my next question. How was this possible? Because all the reasons that you're explaining, we feel them in Romania. Andreas feels them in South Africa. We are more or less in the same situation, right? But because if this is the recipe for success, we will be all on LinkedIn tomorrow writing open letters to our prime minister. You know, so something else is going on there. You know.
You know, it was such a painful situation in this country, considering COVID, considering the economy, not being able to welcome tourists and all that, that this digital nomad story altogether became like almost a beacon of hope for many people.
The story sold. The story sold.
Absolutely. Everybody loved it. Everybody saw a light at the end of the tunnel. This was something that could maybe save us or help us in some way.
Amazing.
And yeah, everybody, and I have to also give a lot of credit to the State Secretary of Interior, who was actually the glue between all the ministries. And I'm talking about Ministry of Finance, I'm talking about Labor, I'm talking about Foreign Affairs, I'm talking about the Health Care Institute, I'm talking about pension funds. These were all involved in combined making efforts to come up with a piece of legislation that would allow all of this to happen. And the Ministry of Interior was the let's say the ministry with the mandate to do all that. And the State Secretary is the person that at the end made it happen. But during this process, we also had a lot of questions. You know, there were a lot of things, especially tax related, that we couldn't answer. So one of the things that I also did is I reached out to the State Secretary of Ministry of Economy in Estonia, because in Estonia, they were actually the first country in the world to introduce this. Yeah. And we organized a meeting between Estonia and Croatia government, where they were able to just ask all kinds of questions and learn from each other. After that, we went back to the drawing table. We came up with our final, let's say, proposition. And that was voted upon and approved by Parliament very soon after. And that basically means, I mean, it's not only that we were the second one in Europe and the seventh one in the world, but as an entrepreneur, one of the things that I did is I also wanted to make sure that this permit, because it's officially a staying permit, that this was, let's say, competitive. You know, we want to have good products when we try to offer something. So we made a rather detailed analysis of everything that was being done already in countries like Estonia, Barbados, Georgia. And we looked at what can we do to actually turn our permit into a very appealing and competitive product for the digital nomads. So first of all, Juliana, you already mentioned it, in Brazil, you are a non-tax resident until like 183 days, if I'm not mistaken. In Croatia, if you are a permit holder, you will be exempt from paying income tax for a whole year. And we did that in order to avoid double taxation, because you have countries like the United States that will still go after your taxes. And United States is actually the biggest provider of digital nomads in the world. The most digital nomads are US citizens. So we understood that this is a huge target market for Croatia. And if we wanted to attract US citizens to come and apply for this digital nomad permit, then we needed to make sure that they don't pay any income tax in Croatia. So these are the things that we worked on. The income that you need to have in order to be able to apply is about 2,100 euros a month. If you can't show regular income, because you know some people can't, it's also enough to show that you have enough savings for 12 months. And then based upon that and proof that you are actually a remote worker, you can get yourself a permit. Family members can also then reunite with you. So based upon, for example, man or a wife having the digital nomad permit, then family can reunify with the person that has the digital nomad permit.
Thank you very much, Ian. That's an amazing story. I mean, it's almost unbelievable. Thank you very much. We have so many questions. A lot of the questions are super specific. I'm not sure if we're able to answer everything honestly. We have Helma Priyamvada. Hello, Priyamvada. Lovely to see you here. Do any of your countries allow students to convert their visa to digital nomad one? Right. So we have student visas, current students that are in various countries with a student visa and they want to switch it. Who wants to take this question?
In the case of Spain, as I say, one of the requirements is that you prove you've been a professional for a minimum period of time. Or if you're going to be an employee, you've been working for a company for at least 3 months. So in the case of Spain, if you're a student and you're studying in Spain, but in parallel you've got your own business, you can definitely modify into a into a digital nomad, or you will be able, once it is enforced, to modify into the digital nomad. But the requirements that you can prove you've been working and you've been a professional for a minimum period of time.
We also have another question. Thank you very much, Jordi. We get questions from our young employees hired in the Netherlands with a contract and payroll in Netherlands to do remote working, and they want to use the digital nomad visa by themselves. We worry that we as a company will have risk responsibilities from tax and social security. I guess, I'm sorry, I don't see the full comment here.
Just let me say that that's one of the main questions everyone, particularly from the corporations, should raise, because that's a very important one, and that's one of the main challenges to have all of this working. I mean, the risk of permanent establishment is not something small, and how these social security contributions will be structured, because international remote working cannot be considered as secondment, so there will be linked to the national legislation in terms of labor and social security. How foreign entities, foreign employers are going to process the social security, that is a question that needs to be clarified. Sorry for talking too much, Madalina.
Thank you.
If I can also,
please, Andreas.
Yeah, so I also foresee this a major point South Africa would have to come up with some sort of tax exemption, because we also have the rule 183 days, you don't have to pay income tax, okay, international rule, similar to Brazil, and over that there is actually some tax liability. As a matter of fact, you might even establish a physical branch by just sending an employee here, right? I mean, that's why the EOR companies, employer of records, are becoming so popular, because obviously they're
the rising stars. Yeah.
You know, they're offering a solution for it, right? But so I think to successfully implement something like that, you need at least for 1 year a tax exemption, so you don't have the double taxation problems Jan was already talking about, and Mauritius has done it. So I think South Africa should also go into that direction. And as a matter of fact, there is actually a proposal from the Western Cape government. So the Western Cape government obviously is the province where Cape Town is. So it is not a big surprise that this government has put a suggestion forward about a year ago, and it has not been answered yet. But yeah, the tax exemption there plays a big role, and I think it's important.
Yeah. Andreas, thank you very much. You mentioned just a couple of seconds ago, actually a bit earlier as well, that you have suggested this digital nomad visa to the South African government, right? 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And the Western Cape government also submitted the draft remote working visa proposal. What was the exact response to those efforts submitted so far? What do you believe holds the government back, if you can share with us, of course? Is it that it's super difficult to implement, or is it something else?
So maybe my approach was a bit old, and I should have followed Jan's approach through LinkedIn in public. And I mean, I listened to his story, and I think I can improve a little bit on my public relations here. But I basically submitted a paper to the minister's office, basically. But there was no response really. But look, it was COVID, and it was obviously a crisis. So I mean, I don't take this personally. But it was picked up by the Western Cape government. They have their own suggestions. I do think, and to answer your second part of the question now, our president has now in our State of the Nation address, which was last week, has announced that they will introduce a digital nomad visa. Now, before the audience gets their hopes up too high, this can still take quite a long time. Just because the president says so, it doesn't mean it gets implemented within a week or two. But clearly, it is on the radar screen of the president and the president's office. So I do think, for the reasons we have talked about, it will come, and it will probably come sooner than later, okay? Because South Africa is very sincere about attracting international investors and being open for international business. It would be very easy to implement, to be honest, because in our legislation, the definition of work is already kind of excluding the digital nomad workers, because we included in the definition of work within the Republic of South Africa, and obviously that's not the case if you work completely externally for an external company. we have other long-term visitor visas, for instance, for international teachers or artists or sports people, right? And you could literally just add another subcategory, and it would be fairly easy to implement, and the documents would be in line, I think, with all the other countries we're talking here about. So medical insurance, maybe, maybe a police clearance certificate, the proof of income, and the proof of being employed. I think that's the crucial one. And I think the last point is it's very, very important that families are allowed to come with. So I think that's really, really important that, not just the breadwinner can go, because then nobody comes, right? I mean, you want to take your family with, and yeah. But I'm very positive that this will happen, because I saw it in the suggestions of the Western Cape government.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much, Andreas. And thank you very much, Steve Asher, for your question. The question is how such visas would be attractive as options for employers.
I can say that you want to retain talent, you need to adapt to reality.
Or you
exactly.
don't. Yeah. Super.
I think the answer to this is that a lot of companies internationally are rethinking their HR policies, right? And remote working is becoming part of these policies to attract and retain talent, right? I mean, so I think a lot of employers are starting to offering it, and that's why countries can offer this visa.
Steve also has another question. Thank you very much, but has another question regarding the PE issues and digital nomad employees. Permanent establishment issues and digital nomad employees.
Yeah, well, perhaps Juliana can say, but from my point of view, all that the tax agencies, national tax agencies, should do is just keep the criterion that they kept over the years until 2 years ago. And clarify that if a company has not activity in one country, then it doesn't really matter if there is an employee working from that country, because it's not a permanent establishment. This is what is being put on doubt, and this is what is creating, uncertainty.
Thank you, Jordi. Juliana, getting back to one of the question, one of the attendees asked a bit earlier. What would be the main requirements for Brazil in brief? I know you recently implemented the visa, and after you tell me the requirement, you tell all of us the requirement. I would be really interested in learning about the reaction once it's been implemented.
Yes, there was a great pressure, social pressure on the authorities, because as I mentioned to you, we suffered a lot with the pandemic. So we want to create ways of recovering the economics, So I participated with an association in Brazil, ABEMI, and this was really discussed in our agenda all the time. So they suggested a lot of things for the authorities here, and when it was approved, people were very excited about this possibility. So now we, as I mentioned to you, are receiving a lot of questions, and we still are discovering some of the things because we need to practice, to put in practice. But the main requirements are pretty much the same. It is very similar from the other countries. You just have to have an employment relationship overseas, and you have to prove a monthly income of $1,500. And if you cannot prove this monthly income, you have to prove savings for $18,000. It is something for, I think for the foreigner is more easier because our currency is very, very undervaluated. So, this means a lot of money in Brazil. And the other requirements are more simple, like health insurance and other
That was
documents.
one of the questions, how it works with healthcare and health insurance. If the people need to have private international health insurances. I guess it's a yes for all the countries.
Exactly.
No. Jordi, you're saying no.
No.
Well, no, in the case of Spain, because if you're an employee, you contribute to the Social Security. That gives you access to health assistance. Sorry for interrupting.
Please, Juliana.
No, yes, and then we have two options to apply for this visa. You can apply by yourself at the Brazilian consulate, and then the requirements are more easy, of course. Or you can be in country. You can apply here for the Ministry of Justice, but in this case, all the documents must be apostilled, sword translated. The requirements are a little tough, but nothing that you can't figure out. And so this is and usually they say they are going to analyze the visa in around of 40 days. It is the same for all the other visas. So this is what we expect.
And how is the overall reaction after its implementation? What's the feeling in the country? How does everybody feel about it?
Yes, now, as I mentioned to you, we are excited because a lot of people want to invest in Brazil. We see a lot of foreigners want to invest and to do business here. So now they are applying for the visa, you know, to try to understand the dynamic of the country and then to see the possibilities to really invest in the country. So we see a lot of excitement.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. We have so many questions. We will not be able to finish our own questions. I tell you, we have only quarter of an hour left. Are we seeing most Nomad visa schemes allowing the ability to work immediately on arrival without any secondary in-country process step?
Yes, from South Africa, if they implement it, because that's our immigration system. We don't have in-country second steps or residence, etc. So yes.
Ian?
In Croatia, you can actually apply online. And after your online application has been approved, then you will be notified. And then you can just come to Croatia, you go to the police station to pick up your permit, and that's it.
That's amazing. Super. Getting back to Spain for a second. So Jordi, several steps have been done towards this. But what do you expect to happen in the future? What will be the next obstacles you and Spain in general need to overcome to see it implemented and finalized?
See, we've been talking, I think we've been discussing about them. Needs to be clarified the implications on taxation for both the employee and the companies, and clarify the absence of impact. And then Spain needs to, I think they need to, or we need to facilitate the obtaining of a corporate digital certificate for companies so they can comply and interact with the Spanish public administration in terms of social security contributions remotely, well, as a non-residents. I believe that's one of the key parts for making this program successful, because it's not only about facilitating visas for employees who want to work remotely. We must also ensure that the companies are not negatively affected, that employers feel happy with that and see this as an opportunity to retain talent and not to navigate troubled waters.
Yeah, thank you, Jordi, very much. To explore a bit further the South Africa situation, Andreas, I'm thinking about the gains and the losses of a certain country that chooses to implement or not to implement such a visa. So what would be actually the main losses that South Africa would witness from a social, cultural, economic point of view if such a visa is not implemented? What would the country would miss out on?
So you mean what the losses are, or do you also want the win?
Just the losses. Let's focus on what we're missing here.
I personally, look, I would be interested to hear from the countries who have it. I don't think there are many losses, to be honest, because I mean, there's no impact on the local.
No. Losses if you do not implement it.
Sorry. So
yes.
okay.
What we are missing out, it's not implemented.
Yeah, I mean. Look, I mean, you're losing lots of interested people. I mean, they're spending, obviously, they're renting a house or a flat. They're going into our beautiful, stunning restaurants and spending money. And then they're traveling the country and falling in love, not just maybe with the city which is hosting. As a matter of fact, they will all travel. They might travel to Namibia, they might travel to Botswana. So I think for tourism and for just spending money, the spin-offs are enormous. And usually because of the income thresholds, you're also attracting people with a certain income, right? And have a flexibility. So and then the promotion of the culture, the energy of the people, what I was referring towards earlier, right? I mean, the majority of people just fall in love with the people and with the continent. So I think the losses are quite high, and I think they should maybe start getting that.
Super.
If I may add something. So, I mean, even though, actually, I think that the digital nomad visa or the permit, it's mostly a PR instrument. It just shows it's a very clear signal towards digital nomads that you as a country are a digital nomad welcoming destination. If you look at the numbers, even though Croatia was among the first countries to introduce it, up until now, we've had about 450 applications from 52 different countries. But that number actually is only a small representation of the total number of digital nomads that are actually in the country. Because if you look at, for example, nomadlist.com, I don't know if you're familiar with that website, but on nomadlist.com, you can actually look at trends and you can go to a certain city and you can see how many people arrive on a monthly basis. And if I add up those cities in Croatia all together, we can conclude that on a monthly base, on average, we have about 2,000 digital nomads coming to the country. So it's the 450 people that applied for the digital nomad permit. First of all, these are all individuals that want to stay in Croatia for more than 90 days. Because if they want to stay less than 90 days, they would simply be here on a tourist visa. And these are all third country nationals. So anybody from the European Union would also not apply because they don't need to have a permit to be in Croatia. But then with this huge PR instrument that we have, so-called the permit, we are getting a lot of attention in the media, and a lot of digital nomads are making their decision to come to Croatia because we are a digital nomad welcoming country. And that's why actually the economic impact, which I also have some numbers for, is getting much bigger than the numbers from the permit would initially show you. I know that based upon, also another survey done by Nomad List says that a digital nomad on average stays about 69 days in one location. So let's say 2 months. And if you assume that a digital nomad spends about 1,300, 1,500 euros per month, knowing that we have 2,000 of them coming per month and they stay for 2 months, then the economic impact that we are currently already enjoying in Croatia from welcoming remote work professionals is somewhere around 65 to 70 million euros per year at this very moment. And I personally feel that we are only at the beginning. I think that this number is only going to keep on growing. What is now very important actually, because there are countries that do not have permits, but they are very successfully for digital nomads, and that is because they have community. And if you want to really make your country, let's say, stand out among digital nomads, you can already, even if you don't have a permit right now or a visa, you can already start working on building a community. And that's also something that we are doing at this very moment. We started, I co-founded the Digital Nomad Association Croatia. And with our association, it is our mission to unite and to serve digital nomads in Croatia. Yeah.
Thank you, and very much. You mentioned at some point the word community, and that made me think of a very important question I had to ask you, and it would be actually a question for all of you. Imagine because we have amazing destinations. All of your countries are amazing destinations for nomads or freelancers or gig workers or so on and so forth. I'm curious to know more about how they were actually received. That would be in case of Croatia. You have already experienced, and I assume you have some data. How were the people received in the local communities? Or how do you expect these people would be received in the local community in the case of Brazil, South Africa, or Spain? I don't know. with open arms, with a bit of fear. You know, the foreigners are coming, they're taking our jobs, so on and so forth. If you can share with us, please.
Who? Me?
Everybody who wants to start, please, you can start.
I've spoken already a lot, so if somebody else wants to.
Yes, Juliana?
Yes, I can tell you. Well, in Brazil, I see there's not a competition, because to be here as a digital nomad, you need to prove relationship with a company or anything overseas. So for now, that in Brazil we have a lot of challenges in terms of social issues in general, and we have a lack of employment in general. So this could be received as as a competition, but I don't see it this way, because to be employed in Brazil, you need to change your visa, so you need to change your fiscal situation. You are going to bring other things for the country. So I think in general, the excitement, and also it's important to mention that we are very friendly when we are welcoming foreigners in general. So Brazil is this country. So we do not have only beautiful natural beauties and etc., but we are really friendly. So usually people don't understand how we can welcome very well foreigners all the time. So I see this way.
Super, thank you, Juliana. Andreas?
Yeah, I think we're a major tourism hub, right? So I think we would be very well. I know we would be very welcoming, and I think that people would have a great time here.
Ian, you already have experience, right? A couple of 2 years now, right? What was the feeling among the local communities?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, the only way that I can get feedback is actually by speaking with the digital nomads on how they feel being treated here, and the general feeling is just very positive, very warm. Of course, also from my position as a president of the Digital Nomad Association, we also fulfill a role that we are actually representing digital nomads, not only towards the government, but that we are also getting the private sector involved. So, for example, we had meetings with Croatian Telecom to see if there's special offers that they can make in offering unlimited mobile data for digital nomads, special packages, which they've done. I mean, they've come up with special propositions for digital nomads. We are talking with companies like Flixbus, which is obviously a transportation company, to see if they would want to offer special discounts for digital nomads. We have supermarket chains that are offering discounts to digital nomads. We have KPMG being able to offer tax advice to digital nomads if they have any kind of questions. So we are also really very much involving actually the private sector into turning this into one big, great experience for digital nomads the moment that they land. We are actually in a couple of weeks from now, we're going to introduce a welcome bag for digital nomads. So anybody that applies for the permit has a very small cost. I think it's like 100 euros altogether to apply for the digital nomad permit. But what we have done actually in collaboration with companies, we have prepared a nice little goodie bag with more value in there actually than what they pay for the permit. We are now also speaking with the Croatian National Tourist Board. I had a meeting with them yesterday where we are going to make joint efforts in organizing events, international promotion of this country to attract even more digital nomads to come here. And of course, we are also still in communication with the Ministry of Interior to make further improvements on the digital nomad permit. Up until now, they can, for example, stay maximum 12 months. We are now looking into the possibility to prolong your permit with an additional 6 months. So these are things that are constantly being worked on by myself together with an amazing team.
Thank you very, very much. The questions keep coming, so we are about to wrap up the session. Actually, it's almost time. I think I would kindly ask all my guests. We will tag you in the comments because we have a lot of comments and a lot of questions from the audience, and we did not manage to answer all of them. Perhaps
1 hour was too short.
No, we thought it was too short, but yeah, it's a topic that needs several sequels. You know, it's a very hot topic, and people are super curious, especially now that a bit of time has passed, and some countries already implemented it, and we have examples and stories to share.
I guess we can. Madalina, how can I leave a comment here in the comment section? Because I could maybe share.
We will, everything is private in our own studio, but we will take your comment and post it on LinkedIn so that everybody can see it. I saw that, and we will post it afterwards in a second. Yeah, I think this wraps up the session. Actually, thank you very much for your time. It's been amazing. Surely the audience has found it extremely interesting. We have not managed to go through all the messages. We have hope that things are going into the right direction in more countries, and hopefully more and more success stories will be heard and will be acting as triggers for other countries and nations to consider this type of visa, right? So thank you very much for taking the time. A big thank you to the panelists. Thank you very much to the entire audience. In case you need further expert advice, please reach out to our guests directly. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to help you. Meanwhile, please follow our Xpath.global pages on LinkedIn and YouTube to get updates on our upcoming live events. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.